Alright guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing this DeWalt planer that I just bought. It's the DW734 and I got it online from Home Depot and it was listed for $3.99 and it's a pretty good deal for a DeWalt planer. DeWalt is pretty consistently a decent quality product, so for that price it seemed like a good deal to me, especially when I compare it to planers from Harbor Freight, which are in the $360 range, and other cheap planers which are in the $330 to $350 range right now, and they are not built nearly as robustly as this one. One thing that's nice is this planer also came with, the current deal is that it comes with this DeWalt carrying case here, or this DeWalt toolbox, or whatever you want to call it. It's a pretty cool deal because usually something like this on its own is about 30 bucks. Okay, so one of the things I noticed immediately upon taking this out of the box and installing the turn handle is it just turns so smoothly. I honestly, even though it's DeWalt, I kind of, had my doubts being in the $399 range because that's really actually pretty cheap for a planer like this. But it really turns easily and smoothly, and I really like that. It's also a very heavy unit. It says 80 pounds on the side. It's a very awkward 80 pounds, but it is good that it weighs a lot because when you're running boards through here, you don't want it moving around. And I can tell you, look at this, just moving it moves my workbench, which is pretty sturdy even though it's on locking wheels. Another nice thing about this is that it has the folding tables. You will notice that they also, a lot of the cheaper brand planer in-feed and out-feed tables have die stamped metal to add rigidity to it because they save money on the metal. So you'll see kind of like a ripple pattern in the table. This does not have that because they actually used a thick enough steel that it's rigid and hard and doesn't flex or anything all on its own. So that's nice that they use that kind of quality. Online it did say it's capable of up to 15,000 RPMs. One nice thing is that up in here on the back side there are tools for adjustment included, though I did already break a tab off taking this one out, and a wrench. They come with it, and it's decent quality too. The planer does have these handles. Due to its weight, it is an awkward 80 pounds. So these come out and you can carry it with a friend or by yourself with these. It does have a nice on and off switch here, nice and big and easy to operate and slap off. You can see here on the front that it's got a depth gauge that tells you how much the cut's gonna be. So if you lower this, you can see that line starts going up and it tells you how deep the cut's gonna be, whether it be an eighth, 3/32, 1/16, 1/32, or hash marks between there. According to the specs, it can do a maximum of an 1/8 inch at a time, and that depends on the width of your wood. I would suggest you try to shave off as little as possible with each run. One cool thing it has here is a turret stop where you can do repeatable depth cuts. It has standard 0 for under a 1/4 inch planing. It has a 1/4 inch, it has a 1/2 inch, and it has 3/4 inch turret stops. So basically, if you put it to that turret stop, you can lower this and it's going to stop it at that height, and you'll be able to repeat that planing thickness over and over again easily without having to set stuff up. Also on the 3/4 inch thickness, that's actually customizable, so there's a bolt in there that you can unscrew to have a higher thickness if that's what you want. So you can make the 3/4 inch stop a custom thickness. That's kind of cool. On the back side here, it's got a wood shaving outfeed. You can either just blow them out the side, or you can hook up a dust collection or vacuum to it and run it that way. Also, because this is meant to be portable, this thing has a cord wrap deal where you can just wrap the cord around and store it that way. This is a nice thick cord. It's 300 volts rated. It's the kind of cord you want on something like this. It's not cheap the way some of the cheaper brands would have it. Another thing here, so you can, when you set it at the depth you want, there's a locking function where you push down on this bar and it basically locks everything to the, I don't know, the bars, what they call the bars here, but it basically tightens everything up so that you won't get as much snipe and you won't get movement, and so you'll get a lot of consistency there. This is just a lot of features that you don't find on planers in this price range. Another feature, every turn of the height adjustment handle is a 1/16 inch adjustment. So whether you're going up or down, it adjusts it a 1/16 for one full turn. A half turn would be a 32nd adjustment. It does have a little indicator here that you can turn if you're not sure and you want more precise, like down to a 64th adjustment, so a 1/4 turn. You would turn this little indicator here and put the 0 on the arrow, and then you can know exactly where a 64th is by turning it a 1/4 turn, or a 32nd is by a half turn, or 3/64ths, or what have you. The top of the planer here feels like cast. It's heavy duty. The bottom is cast and it's nice and heavy. You got steel infeed and outfeed tables, steel down here. The motor feels pretty robust. The plastic it feels like a glass fiber filled plastic. These sides are more of a standard plastic here from what I'm feeling. Overall, it feels pretty heavy duty and pretty sturdy. All right, let's try it out. So the first thing I'm going to try is just a regular old rough 2x4. This is a low quality 2x4 part, and I'm just gonna run it through. I'm gonna use the gauge here to tell me how much I'm gonna take off, and I'm just gonna try to shave off a little bit at a time. So let's get it going. All right, so you can tell it did a decent job. It got it nice and flat. You can see the wood grain better there. It is leaving some blade marks and just a hair of snipe. I think I'm going to need to adjust the in-feed and out-feed tables. You got to get these nice and level with the inner table here in order to keep that from happening. But it seems to be doing a good job overall. All right, so next I'm going to try, this is, I believe, some walnut that I had here. I'm going to try this. It's actually an ugly old piece of walnut, and it's a little rough to the feel, and I'm going to try running it through and we'll see what happens. Let's set the depth by the gauge here. All right, look at that. It cleaned that right up. It is leaving some lines here that are going to need to be sanded out, but overall it's smooth. It's smoothing it right out. All right, so now this is some sort of mahogany that I have. It's some pretty rough stuff. You can tell it's been rough planed, but nothing good. I'm going to try going across the grain now instead of with the grain, which is a little easier. I'm going to see how it planes going across the grain now with this one. Alright, so it works. It is having a little bit of tear out at the edges. It's not ideal to do it across the grain, but it did a decent job. It straightened it and flattened it and smoothed it right out. You can see the grain better now. And again, leaving some lines, but that's not uncommon with planers. Oftentimes you're going to have to sand it after the fact. All right, now let's see how it does. I want to see if it can feed. So this is a piece of basswood here, or basswood, or however you pronounce it. And the long flat sides are nice and smooth and planed, but the end grain is not. It's very rough. So I'm going to see if this can actually stay up on its end and get planed being fed through here. Check that out. That was a very rough side, and now the edges here are nice and flat and really smooth actually. Don't know if you can see that. Let's see if it's square. Oh yeah, nice and square. Check this side. Yep, nice and square. Doing a pretty good job. Alright, busting in here because I forgot to verify that this material thickness measurer is accurate. So what I'm going to do, I have it on 5/8 thickness, and this should indicate the end thickness of your material. And I'm going to run this through it and we'll see what it measures at. Right at 5/8. So it's actually accurate. Now let's check that this depth stop is accurate. So we'll go to a 1/2 inch right there, and then we'll lower this to where that stops it, and then I'm just going to run it through there. Well, actually I got to run it through there first to get it close. It's on a 1/2 inch. Let's see if it stopped it at a 1/2 inch. See that? It's actually perfect. Exactly on. That's pretty good. Look at that. Well, it's apparently pretty accurate. I'm pretty happy. Even if you look at the measurement right there, it's right on a 1/2 inch, and I wasn't even looking at that when I said it. I was just using the turret stop here. So it's pretty accurate right out of the box. So I noticed that it was sending some of the wood chips out the front now. Some of this stuff, it made some bigger shavings and it kind of clogged up. So I guess if you're not doing dust collection, then you should probably leave this thing off to allow these things to escape. Anyways, well, that is the DW734 planer. I'm pretty happy with it. Honestly, it feeds through nice and fast. It cuts well. It doesn't bog down at all. I tried, besides whitewood or pine and basswood, I tried some walnut here. I think this is walnut. I actually don't think this is walnut. I think this is a thicker type of African mahogany. And this African mahogany is very dense and very heavy, and it did a good job. It didn't even really bog down much with this stuff. And this stuff is a little lighter. I think this is Brazilian mahogany, if I remember correctly. And it did a pretty decent job on all of it. So if you're interested, $3.99. Honestly, I was surprised with the quality. Even the weight of this, when I got it and I set it up on the bench, I couldn't believe that it was that heavy and that sturdy. And I probably should have locked this down when I was running that stuff through, and it probably would have done a little better job. One thing I'll notice, a common complaint of people is snipe, where it'll catch on the ends and basically ruin, you know, the last ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch of the wood. And so people gotta, when you're planing the wood, they leave an extra amount at the end so they can cut it off. But I'm seeing no snipe at all from this, which is a good sign. Anyways, good quality. I like it so far. I'll give you updates. I am going to have an instructional video later, how to use it, basically all the little tips and tricks, the instruction manual, but in visual form, and kind of run through it with you in the setup and everything. So if you want to see that, stay tuned.